G'day Club 18 stars, and welcome to the new concept called the Club 18 Legends Interview Series. I'm Anthony Lawrence, past player and coach at Q and the Two Blues, and I have the honour and the privilege of interviewing or conducting the first interview with our first legend, Mickey O'Day. Before we get to Mick, this idea was spawned by all-round nice guy and the bloke with the best set of cheekbones in Melbourne, Justin Geary. Geary's thought it'd be a terrific idea to give something back to the playing group right now who can't get on the field due to COVID-19. Whoever's number 19 at Paran needs to be whacked around the head for whatever they did. But it's a great idea for Gorney and his group to have something to grab onto while there's no play on the ground. So for the current group that's there, for us retirees, it might be a really nice opportunity for us to relive some brilliant, outstanding memories on and off the field. So we'll be following up with other episodes after Mix. So the current and the past Club 18 legends to help you understand a little bit more about the club that you love playing for. And I reckon that all of you will put on this jumper at some point and the Q jumper at some point in your career. I've understood it's probably been a little bit off-centre in terms of the way it operates, but the beauty and the benefit of being off-centre is it gives us a lot of seriously funny and amazing tales that we're going to hear throughout this series. So it's going to be great. So that's the background. Enough about that. Sit back, grab a beer. I've got one. Mick's got one. I've got the Paran stubby holder. Get that shit off the screen, Mick. And let's enjoy the first interview with a bloke that I and many others do regard as a true legend of the Club 18 club, the team that we've had, and perhaps a godfather to many of us, Mick O'Day. Welcome and thanks for joining the series, Mick.
Oh, Tony, I'm very touched by your words. That was beautiful, poetic. Did you write them before, or did that come straight from the heart?
They, Mick, are written up on the wall just above your head. How did you feel, Mick, when you got a call? You were nominated as the first interviewee.
Tony, I turned to my darling wife and I just wept. It was one of the great moments of my life to have the opportunity to perhaps have a chat to not only your good self, but some of the Two Blue boys out there. And I hope everybody's doing well and staying safe and enjoying this time, perhaps not off the footy field, but perhaps with everybody together.
That's touching, Mick. So for the people who haven't heard of you, Mick, and perhaps of those who have and probably didn't listen, how did you come to be part of the club?
I joined the club back in the late 80s, and what I had was an association with a mate from school, Dave McIsaac. And Dave had played down at Q, which was formed in about 1982, I think they formed it, pretty much as a social team. And Dave and his brothers, he had 5 brothers, and they were pretty much the spine of the team. And then they got their mates to fill out around them. So the 5 McIsaac boys, and I think the group was started by Marty Varner and his brother. So there were lots of brothers playing. And basically it became a social team formed from a lot of blokes that went to Xavier and lived in and around the Q area. And they were very much off-centre, as you say. And the culture of the club was very social, very party, very drink hard, play hard. And I think that culture has sort of evolved and developed and enhanced over the journey.
So, Mickey, that'll shock a lot of people. So a team we consider our number one enemy is where we've been spawned from.
It is indeed. So good Catholic spawning. And I think that's what actually spurs the fact that every time that you go up against Xavier or have gone up against Xavier, there's a little bit of edge to it. And certainly during my time of playing there, because I did play for Old Zavs for a bit, and a few of the Q boys that came through the system played for Old Zavs as well, and then ended up at Q. So there was always a great challenge to knock them off and give them a little bit of shit. So it was good.
So the benefit of these interview series, Mick, which I've learnt in the first 3 minutes, is I never knew that fact that you played for Zavs.
Really? 2 years under 19s, Tony?
That's alarming. So, Mick, how many games did you play?
I don't know. I don't know, a few. It seemed like a lot. Must be up to close to 150, 200. I don't know. Because I had a bit of a gap for a few years and really started playing in '89 at Kew, and then obviously into Paran, and gave it away when I went to London in 2000 at the end of the 2001 season. So sort of 13 years in there, add them up, and that's probably the total.
Yeah. So let's work on it based on 150. How many goals?
About 6,000. So I didn't handball too much. So
No. You Richmond can.
I like the goal. So, yeah, like the goal. I don't know, probably a couple of goals a game deep was sort of the measure. So it was it was always good fun. I pretty much played in the forward pocket and had the occasional run on the ball, and certainly more in the forward pocket as I got older. But it was good fun, particularly getting well fed from some of the boys out of the middle, such as your good self, and then hanging off the likes of Cougar or Carey, to take one of the rare balls that they may have missed.
Yeah. So to give the crew a sense of you as a player, what AFL player do you reckon you most resemble on the field?
Oh, Kevin Bartlett, mate. Yeah.
You reckon?
Didn't handball too much, didn't chase too much, just tried to kick goals from the boundary line. Or maybe Stevie Milne. I liked him. I always liked him, even though he was a bit cheeky. Knew where the ball was. Knew how to kick a goal. So that sort of player.
Yeah. So, because you were known as a crafty player on field, Mick. That's by teammates and opponents. So, what's some of the better tricks you would use you would have used on field?
Oh, Tony, one of my favourites was the water bottle trick, which I think you then adopted, didn't you? Which was basically trying to make sure that your opponent, when somebody, the runner, occasionally came out with a water bottle, you'd share that with your opponent, and then as he was having a drink, you'd nip over the back and just grab a free ball and run into an open goal while the guy was trying to chase you down, throwing the water bottle at you. So that worked a few times, and initially they thought that was terrific, that I was a very friendly fella, but it's just a little bit of a taunt. It's fun.
Yeah. You had a good ability to get a free kick too, Mick, on your way through.
Yeah, umpires liked me, I think. I was always very considerate to them, and managed to stage. And I think the Kevin Bartlett staging was pretty prominent in my my growing up, and learned a few tricks from him that carried into the amateurs.
Yeah, good stuff. So, what are some of your favourite memories, Mick, as a player?
As a player, footy or on field or off field, Tony? Where are we headed with this? Do you want me to take it anywhere?
You're the star of the interview, Mick. You tell us.
Yeah. Obviously, the games were always good fun. Particularly the grand finals and winning those. And we had good fortune to win a few and play in a lot of final series. So they were always good fun. But I think the real culture of the club's always been around the mateship that's formed from various people that came down. So for me, the memories are more around some of the fun and the activities that we had off the field, as well as during games. I got brought into a culture whereby all these boys were having smokes at quarter time, out in the field. That the water bottles were full of bourbon or beer, very rarely with water. So we're having a drink during the game. So by the time the game's finished, everyone was ready to just charge on, keep partying, particularly if we'd won. So it was pretty good fun. I think we adopted some of those once you boys sort of came along in the mid '90s, but probably not to the excess that was happening, back in the early Q days in the late '80s and early '90s when, smoking on the field was regular for some of the boys.
Is that why we were sponsored by Smoke Free?
Yeah, I think so. But back then you could have a drink in the change rooms and all that sort of stuff. So we were having beers before the game, and that was pretty good for a few of the boys that had a big Friday night and just kept rolling in. Obviously they had big sessions and couldn't get home for one reason or the other, and had to have a few charges before they ran out in the field was always good fun. Or in people like Dunk Brand's case, just to sort of say his best his best role that he could perform in a black tie, having been out all night, was to run drinks, and he pulled out a tray and ran water for us all day in a black tie dinner suit, which was a pretty amusing day as well.
There were lots of them, Mick, weren't they?
Yeah.
So these days we're seeing modern day greats like Berger and Gorney on the field. They're handy players. Who were some of the equivalents in your playing era?
Without a doubt, the best footballer that I ever played with at Q was a guy who's much maligned, Timmy Morn, fat boy.
This is a serious interview, Mick.
He did things on the field, Tony, that would just amaze people. Right. Absolutely amazing. Nah, listen, I played with some really good footballers. Obviously, a few of the boys will probably know Cougs and Dave Butterworth Carey. They were terrific footballers. And I played very close to them, being a forward, and just their ability to split the packs and then kick goals and to protect, everybody in the field. It was fantastic. Without doubt, Terry Lucas was the smartest footballer I ever played with, and multi-skilled. He would say to me in the forward pocket, "I'm getting this one out of the centre, go left." And sure enough, he'd drill it 50 metres on his left foot and hit me laces out. He was a terrific footballer. There were some great players that played in the Q days, both in terms of toughness, but also skilled. Matt Dalton, who played for full forward for, I think, 2 or 3 years down at Q, kicked 100 goals each year, over 100. Some games were kicking 15 goals. He played Collingwood under 19s, and he was a pretty special footballer. In the Q days, he dyed his hair. This is late 80s, early 90s. Dyed his hair, wore the 23, had the big blonde mullet happening. So strutted around thinking he was Dermy. So it was pretty good fun. And there were some really good players like Dozza Doyle, and really hard players like guys that I used to really enjoy playing with, and they'd always do something that was pretty different, like coat hangers and stiff arms, were guys like Andrew Holtz and then Andrew Lazarus, who were just unbelievably tough players. It's good fun. Had the good fortune of playing with lots of good footballers, and I'd even put you in there too, Tony. You're a really exceptional footballer and a terrific player to play with.
Well, thanks, Mick. I have fear that if someone else was doing this interview series, that may not have got a mention, but thank you anyway. So after your playing career, Mick, you then went on to coach. You coached the club.
Well, I did, but I actually coached and played, Tony. I was a bit of a Malcolm Blight. I was one of the last ones to have that poison chalice, and I introduced a few concepts that most of the players didn't fully appreciate or understand, like the backward seven, okay. which was a genius piece of forward craft that AFL coaches then adapted, which was basically everybody on one side of the field and leave the forward line open to run into. But the guys coming out of the middle, like yourself, had no idea what was doing and would kick it the other way. So we overcame that challenge. But no, I had a great time because I suppose it was an opportunity for me to take over the reins as there was a bit of a transition from all the Xavier social sort of guys who'd started the club were reaching the end. I was there with a few of the boys that I started playing with from '89. It was sort of mid-90s. And so we'd had sort of 4 or 5 years down the club. So guys like Quinny and Cora and Dave McIsaac and Tux. And so, we had the nucleus there, and then guys like Ivac joined. And then in about 96, you guys sort of came along, yourself and, Fat Boy and Ruben and a few of the boys, Mickey G. And that's where we started to build a premiership team, and the tradition, I suppose, that you boys have carried on. And so, 97, I think, was a terrific year when we just, I think we came next to bottom in 96 because it was a really young team and we really struggled for numbers. And then we pulled it all together and went ballistic in 97 and had probably one of the best years, most fun years that I had coaching, and it was just, we were out every night. We all bonded together. This Richmond stuff now, that was us in 96, all this, looking after each other and caring. And, the motto was me, we, and all those sort of things that we adopted and charged along with. And, without doubt, the 4 o'clock in the morning sessions basically got us over the line on grand final day, I think, as well as the inspired coaching through the final series to say, well, if you guys go out on Friday nights, don't change it. And so you guys just continue to do that and rock up at 9 o'clock in the morning for a Saturday morning game. And it got us through. Don't change. Just do what we've been doing. That was fun.
Mickey, that was one of the more amazing pieces of coaching I've ever heard at any level, any sport. Going to that grand final when we did go out the night before a game to all hours, and you said to us, if you normally go out before a game till 5 in the morning, go out before a game, but just probably come home at 2 in the morning rather than 5 in the morning. Remarkable.
I think I did put a curfew on you.
At 2 a.m. I don't think we actually went out, but it was a relaxing statement. So that was you knew your crowd well, I think.
Yeah, I think I did, and that's why guys like Fat Boy were permanently on the bench, or whenever we had somebody who was going to knock somebody like your block off, who was captaining the side on a rotation basis, we'd always make sure that Fat Boy was the captain, that he got smacked up rather than any of the better players. But one thing I do remember from that year was guys like Hedge, who'd been there since the start, pretty much at Q, so he was coming to the end. But he certainly led the way, and I know you guys embraced him just playing on the wing and how he went about it, and he certainly showed you a lot of the old traditions, if you like, and that game at Thornbury that you'll remember when he ran through somebody and pretty much the guy was unconscious and they had to get an ambulance. The ambulance came on the ground and hit the brakes and just about ran over the guy out at the Cougars, and we were like, we're all going to die. The guy was carted off to hospital, but the Cougar boys, invited us into their change rooms for a keg of beer, and I think that was the key difference. We'd always all hang out together, pre-game, post-game, going to the club rooms. I think we had a tradition of awarding a six-pack to the best player from the other side and going in and having a drink at the bar. Unfortunately, those sort of things can't happen anymore. But I think we had a few games where there were some all-in brawls that we got the absolute crap beat out of us and we gave as good as we got. But then as soon as the siren finished, we'd go in and hand these blokes a few beers, and they'd embrace us. So whilst we were hated, I think we were loved, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was one of my questions about the Fat Boy being captain against Thornbury Cougars. Were seriously, that they were one of the scariest sides we've ever played against. They were tough. And
back in those days, none of us had tats. We were all very clean shaven, and we'd go out to Thornbury Cougars, and all these boys were just big, bloody, strong tradies who called you everything under the sun and swung the arms rather than the footy boot. And to protect your good self, Tony, you and I came up with a strategy that Fat Boy should be captain. We were willing to sacrifice the fat kid, and we nominated him, and he gave an inspirational speech prior to the game. I think there was tears in his eyes that he'd been elevated to the captaincy because he actually thought that we thought he was worthy of it, but really we were just sacrificing him to go out there. And sure enough, when he ran out in the field, they all just banged the crap out. And you and I hit down the back line. I think you and I were on the bench, weren't we?
You just let the heat go out of the game, Mick.
Yeah, exactly. And then came on and had a little bit of a domination once the Cougars were all worn out and Hedge put a couple of them in the ambulances. That was good.
Yeah. Well, you caused a big brawl in the prelim final against the Cougars one time when I think you staged for a free kick and the bloke didn't like it. You ended up headbutting the umpire. Got banned for life.
He did. I got a stage, I think, and got a goal out of it, and then gave him a bit of lip. And the next time the ball came down, he actually threw me into the fence. He flung me into the fence. So I got another kick, and from the boundary, I threaded it. And I think all of us gave him a fair bit of stick, and the siren had gone or something like that. And he gave the umpire one of the world's great headbutts. And I think then we got another kick, didn't we, for a free kick in the goal square? And I don't know how much we won by, but it wasn't much. And we were behind at that stage. I think we were 3 or 4 goals behind, and all of a sudden we were level again. And, I caused a few issues, but, I had good protectors across the years. Guys like Jamie Edwards, Goo, would always come running down from centre half back and say, leave the little kid alone, just otherwise I'll shoot you. For those that don't know, Jamie's a big, strong policeman. Probably as strong as Faz, but put another 6 inches on him. And, to have protectors like that. Yes, protectors like that who carry guns is always good, particularly when you go to Thornbury.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You touched on something there, Mick, about kicking for goal from the boundary. You were remarkable with your shooting for goal. Your accuracy from the boundary is unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't know. I reckon I had 2 older brothers, so I reckon the one who was going to chase the ball, when they missed. So you just have a bit of a ping on the way back. So that sort of stuff. Probably more accurate from the boundary than I was dead in front, to be honest.
That could have been my next question.
Liked it on the run. Yep.
Yeah. Old Essendon, 6 metres out, straight in front. Somehow you missed.
Well, I remember another one that I did one day where I was in the goal square and I missed it. So, they happen. Those happen. But yeah, I didn't mind a goal. It was always good. And so, I wouldn't get a game these days because I would ping first rather than centre it. So, I'd always back myself. And
now, actually, this has just come to mind now. You just prompted me on this. It wasn't one of my questions. You met your good lady wife, Ali, in a 98. The next year we played with the first year in a Paran. Her first game she came down to watch. What happened?
I kicked a couple.
So, there's a couple, yeah. Mick. This is your time in the sun, Mick. It's time to shine.
I think I got 8. And I think to the point that after I kicked about the 5th, and I think it was probably early in the 3rd quarter, I kicked the 5th, that you and other members of the team then started jumping on the mark to try to put me off in front of her and saying to the opposition team, listen, we'll try to put him off for you. And so you, Reuben, Pritchard, a couple of the other boys were all gunning to make sure I missed, but we kept threading him. It was fun.
And I remember my memory is out of the 8 goals, I think 7 of them were straight in front of where she was sitting.
Yeah, I think I kicked them all at her end and did nothing for the rest of the game.
That's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
But it sealed the deal, Mick.
Anyway,
well done.
The relationship endured, Tony, so you must have had some magic there.
Well, the power of the jumper. We know the power of the jumper.
It is, indeed. And in fact, when I first met her, I was on a trip with your good self and Reuben, and her first memory of all 3 of us is falling out of my car with 24 cans of empty beer, having driven to Mansfield from Melbourne. So she was just like, who are these idiots?
Just part of the journey, Mick.
It was part of the journey.
So tell me, our song is renowned, and I think they talk about the Richmond song being pretty good, the Carlton song being pretty good, but the Two Blue song, Q song, Two Blue song, is the best. Do you know anything about the origin to that song?
Yeah, I think it does stem back to the very first Q Social Club days. And, the boys claim it was written by Bon Scott before he died. It's a touching song for the Q boys. I think it just sums up what those guys were actually doing. The fact is they're wearing the Hawthorn jumper. So therefore, and the Q Club song was, because they were the Club 18 for Q. So the Q Club song and the Hawthorn jumper were prevalent, and they just changed the words from the Q Club song to suit what their cultural and lifestyle was like at that particular point in time, and it stuck. And I think it typifies exactly what the culture of the club is and has been maintained. And I think the words through that song really help everybody identify with the fact that we like playing a bit of footy and we like having some success, but at the same time it's all about a bit of mateship and a bit of enjoying yourself on the journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mickey, I'm going to do a little exercise here, a little quick word association. So I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind when you hear it. Don't worry, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. But I'm going to start with Mickey G.
Chick magnet.
Yep, fair enough. Nigel McPherson.
Goes the wrong way.
And we'll leave that for future episodes for people to work out what that means. Barrels.
Vitally important. Yeah. Barrel was, just to put it into context, barrels were part of the culture of Q. Whenever you had the opportunity to kick a torp, you just had to kick one. And, guys like Goo, myself, yourself, whenever we had an opportunity to thump it as far as we could, it just, call the barrel and off it went. So barrels very important to the structure and culture of the club.
Yeah, and when it comes to Goo, there's a difference between attempting and hitting. I think we might cover that off in his episode. And finally on that one, umpire David Windlow.
Legend. And again, for those that don't know, Dave was umpiring, I reckon, since 82, and then, probably went through till what you guys were still playing. I reckon he went through to about 2010, 2011. He had his son, Tommy, who was about 6 or 7, down bloody playing, and we would pay him to be the boundary umpire, because we had nobody else there. Yeah. And he was a legend, Dave. He was in charge of the Club 18 umpires. He always liked us because we always went in and gave him a beer, and we're always pretty considerate to him. But he just umpired game after game after game after game, and he was terrific, Dave. Really, really good guy.
Yeah. So there was a story on Channel 10 with him, I think. He'd done 1,000 games of umpired footy, and you think about playing 150 is a lot of games. What's that? 6, 7 times that. That's how many times you umpire. That's an insane amount. But you talked about you were good at getting a free kick. You were very good in your coaching days at making sure we got a gold coin donation for his son, who was boundary umpiring, and you knew exactly why you were doing that, not just for Tommy's house fund.
No. It always gave us the rub of the green against every. We always came out on the good side of the ledger when Dave was umpiring.
Absolutely. So, Mickey, as former captain, coach, what advice do you have for the current chief, Goyne? So Nick Goyne's in charge of the club. He's coach. What advice have you got for him?
I think Goyne's played down there for a while, and so he knows how the culture of the club is really important. And I think just trying to bring a group of blokes together for a good fun journey, and to form some lifelong friendships and bonds. You and I probably would ever have met given our age difference. You being so old, me being so young. And the industries that we work in, given without the footy club. So I think there's an opportunity to form lifelong memories and friendships, and the fact that we're doing this identifies that the culture of the club has always been to have some good times, play some good footy, bond together, but share some life experiences, whether that be weddings and births and all those things that we've all enjoyed across the journey. So I think Goyne's you've got a good man in charge there to ensure that the culture and the spirit of the club continues in the manner which it was born and which it's sort of grown.
Yeah. So extend that on for me a bit further. What about the advice for the current players who are representing this jumper?
Boys, I reckon it's just about getting out there and having a fair dinkum crack, and back your mates. There's different levels of players, and I think everybody appreciates that. There's some guys who are better than others. I think just get out there and enjoy yourselves and work hard, because the without doubt the the victories are the ones that you remember, and the finals and getting in and winning grand finals. When you're playing a premiership team, it's a sort of bond that you have forever. And I was fortunate enough to play in 4 of them with across a couple of different eras, and I still catch up with all the guys that I played in premiership teams. So strive for that, and just strive to have a lot of fun along the way. But it's also over very quickly. So if you're thinking about I could still play footy but I mightn't, have a crack, just keep going. And I gave it away, and I remember you and Timmy coming over and saying to me, there's your boots, you got a few more years left in you. And I think I ended up playing about another 4. So I think play for as long as you can, guys, if your body allows you to. Enjoy the journey, because you're a long time retired.
Yeah, that's a very famous Jason Storr saying, that one. You're a long time retired, and
yeah,
and I think he took that a bit too literally. Kept going beyond his time. He probably should have got going with Jace. And
I think he's still playing, isn't he?
Hey? No, Jay. Very interesting story about Jay. So as we film this now, and this might date this a bit, but he just got back from France last night after having to come back for COVID. So big story there. So keep your eye out for that. Mickey, that's terrific. I'm going to wrap it up here, Mick. That's mate, you're a star. I mean, to all of us who played under you. So you mentioned we came in '96. You were the coach. You were like the godfather, the big brother to all of us. 9 of us came down to play footy at that time, and you led us through in a terrific way, and you shaped our footy life, but you shaped our lives on the back of it. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for being part of this first episode.
Thank you. And, I certainly felt like the father picking all you guys up from nightclubs or from various benches that you might have been on the way to games, and driving through McDonald's so that we had, the proper nutrition, and stopping at the pub on the way to the games to ensure that you boys were ready to charge out in the field. But thank you very much for inviting me. Guys, good luck. I hope everybody gets back on the field this year. If not, enjoy this series, and, stay safe and healthy. But I've really enjoyed having a chat to you, Tony. It's been most enjoyable. Thank you for including me.
Good on you, Mickey. Well done. So thanks, Mickey. So for the rest of you, stay tuned for future episodes. We've already got our person in the gun for the next episode. It's a current legend, which is really good to see. Send this video on to other people. If you know of someone else who's played for the Clubbies, 1 game, 100 games, 250 games, whatever, you've got this, and I include Q jumpers in that as well. Send them on, because we've all been part of it. And also, if you would like to sit in Mick's chair and also get your story heard, if you play 1 game for the Clubbies, you've got a story to tell. So we'd love to hear from you as well. So we're going to sign off from this week, team. And remember that we are the mighty Club 18. Thanks, Mickey.
Indeed.